Welcome, guys. We're live. We have the three of us, the three amigos, yet again here with Prepper Talk Radio. We're doing our live session. We do this weekly now. Make sure you're in our Facebook group if you want to be in the live, because that's where we get most of the questions for these episodes. You can find that it's the Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance group on Facebook. Make sure you're following our Prepper Talk Radio page over there on the Facebook. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, and many others. So make sure you're following, engaging. Let us know the questions you have so we can cover those in future episodes, as well as it's just fun to have more friends in the prepping world. So come be friends with us. I'm Scott, and we've got Shane and Paris in the studio branch offices. I don't even know. We're all in different locations. What should I be saying for that? I don't even know. It's like we're in the studio. No, we're not. We're in our
own individual studio offices.
There you go. We're all in our remote studios. There we go. So thanks for joining us. Just as a reminder for housekeeping, we are brought to you today by Jase Medical, JASE medical.com. Get your complete emergency kit of antibiotics, and it is custom to you, and it's good and fantastic. It comes with 5 different medications. Use the code PrepperTalk and get $10 off. It's regularly, I believe, $249. It'll save you $10. Make sure you get in there and get that. It could save your life. Now,
$10 will get you 2 gallons of gas.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Which will get
or
me
gallon,
about
depending.
28 miles.
Yeah.
25 miles.
Depends on what you're driving. Motorcycle, how far is that going to get you, Shane?
Oh, my motorcycle, that'll get me about 200 miles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And if it's my wife's scooter, I could probably go 300 miles.
What?
Efficiency.
Actually, hers is 115 miles per gallon. So yeah, 230 miles.
Wow.
Honda Ruckus, my friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
So who knows?
That's
Someday
awesome.
I might be using that to go to the store. Who knows? When gas is $15 a gallon,
They do have pretty spacious seat. You could put a lot of stuff on the little carrier behind you, right?
Underneath it, I got a little bag underneath the seat. They'd probably put some stuff at your feet, put it in a backpack, little basket on the front. Still not holding that. It's still not enough to go to the store.
But it's better than nothing.
Yes,
better than a bicycle.
Better than walking or a bicycle.
I can't tell you how many times I've ridden a bicycle with groceries dangling on the handlebars.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I served a mission for the LDS church. I went to Florida, and I was on a bike almost the entire time. And we'd ride to the grocery store once a week, get all the stuff for the week, and have like 3 or 4 bags on each side. And I'd be riding back. And if you have to like dodge something or like avoid something at the last second, and those bags start swinging, and you're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it. No, I'm not. It's just, it can be, it can be quite precarious at times. So, thankfully,
double bagged too. So.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to handle a horse with saddlebags on there, or a motorcycle or scooter with saddlebags on there, than it is to try to figure out a bicycle without. So that being said, welcome guys to Prepper Talk Radio. We are going to do a little feedback on the Ready Summit, which we attended. I learned some things. I learned a lot of things, but I really learned things that I did not know. And I'll be the first to admit, like, when I have an app, it is fun to fill. And I thought most food storage companies were pretty on par until this presentation. And it was my second time through this presentation. I got bits and pieces of it at another event, which is why it needed to be at the Ready Summit. But it actually went way more in depth than the other event that I got to get bits and pieces from. But it was from Marcelo Sergopoulos, who has the 7 prep steps and the food storage depot. You can find him at foodstoragedepot.com. He is phenomenal. I know you guys have heard him speak before too, but I mean, he gets into the details that I was just like, wait, what? For example, Mylar bags. Mylar bags are fantastic to a degree. But I didn't know that not all Mylar bags are, well,
Created
most
equal.
Mylar bags are garbage, especially if you're buying them on Amazon. But there's a simple little thing that you can do, which is called a flashlight test with the Mylar bag to see if it's any good or not. Because in this course, he talks about the 5 things that kill your food storage. Can you guys guess what those 5 things are?
Well, light is one of them.
Yeah, that's hence the
Air,
light test.
Mm-hmm. Oxygen, in other words.
water.
Okay.
That's
You were
3.
looking
isn't it?
off
Five
to the
things,
side a
5
little bit. I'm
things.
like, he's cheating. He's looking at the list.
Just the
No,
way
I,
the way it's packed, whether it has nitrogen or oxygen absorber, and then I guess just the quality of the food, right?
Maybe it's stored in a cold place instead of a hot place, or a hot place instead of a cold place. Where it's stored.
Yep. So it's interesting because temperature, for every 10 degrees above 70 degrees, your food can lose a third of its shelf life by just going above that temperature.
Wow.
Like there's, depending on where you are and what's going on with your food and your area, your weather and everything that you're experiencing, it can like wreck your food storage. So whenever I hear somebody, oh, well, I'm just putting it in my garage, I've known that thing for years. I'm like, no, don't do it. Like here in Utah, your garage during the winter, you're fine. You're fine for the most part, but you don't want your food storage freezing either.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just goes so deep. He like the longevity of dehydrated and freeze dried foods and everything that goes into it was absolutely phenomenal and amazing to learn, because he goes into the weeds of like things to like never get, things that just don't last, anything with nuts or oil, anything with added fats, anything with like, for example, pancake mix, they don't last. Like food storage companies are like, yeah, it's good up to 25 years. Well, there's no regulation that says how many years they can claim. Just like on canned foods, there's no regulation that says you have to put an expiration date on it. Those expiration dates and best by dates are up to the manufacturer. And it was just like, I've known those things, but I didn't realize how impacting that really was. And I was like, oh, okay. So he also jumps in and goes through things like nitrogen versus like the nitrogen flush foods versus the oxygen absorbers in your foods. Now, Shane, you brought that up. What do you know about those?
Well, not a lot. I do know that obviously nitrogen is heavier than air, correct? So when it's flushed into a can, it forces out the oxygen. I don't know how effective that is, or what their each individual process is of each manufacturer. But for us, when I do my own, you buy those oxygen absorbers and close up the container and seal it and put that in there. I understand those are quite effective, especially for just doing that yourself, right? It's not an industrial process, not a commercial process. It's just here, just throw it in there and close it up. It's not like we can suck the air out or put nitrogen in there or such. But
so he actually showed how the nitrogen system is actually complete BS. And he showed how they do the manufacturing. He had a little short presentation on it. And basically it's, for lack of a better way of illustrating it to you, it's like, this is the container going by the conveyor belt, and I'm the nitrogen application device. Ready? So here's your can. That's what it is. It's this. Ready?
So it's not packaged in a pressurized room that pulls all the oxygen out and only has nitrogen in that room.
Well, do they put the lid on right after that?
Shortly thereafter, but not right after.
Well, then that means
it goes
oxygen
another 5 to 10 feet.
Oxygen gets right back in.
Oxygen never left.
Oh, dang.
A little bit left. He actually shows you an independent report that shows of the different food providers out there at the time and when that became popular, like how it actually worked and the effectiveness of it. And it's like, it didn't work. Like your food had so much oxygen in it, which is killing your food. It was terrible.
So, in other words, what you're saying is not all freeze-dried foods are created equal. They're not packed equal. They don't have the right the equal nutrition. There are some that are better than others, and that what I've learned is don't buy the cheap stuff. I mean, I've always stayed away from the cheap stuff, right? Because it's and we've
There's a reason it's cheap.
Exactly. There's a reason it's cheap for everything, anything and everything. There's a reason it's cheap. And I know, Scott, you and I have tried a lot of freeze-dried stuff over the years. Some stuff is just barely edible. Like, okay, I could eat that. Some is just like, wow, this is really good. And of course, your own freeze-dried stuff with the Harvest Dried is like, of course, the best quality. But then you got to package it yourself, right? You got to put it in the right Mylar bags and with the oxygen absorbers. But I've done, I think the last place I bought food, I can't even remember now, but I spent a lot of money on freeze-dried stuff. But, one thing we're really trying to focus on, I think, on today is that 90-day pantry, right? And I personally don't have any freeze-dried in my pantry, but that's my next level. That's my next step, right? My first step is my pantry, 3 months, 90 days worth of stuff, canned goods, stuff we eat every day. And then I step next into that freeze-dried category for another 3 months. Because it's, for the most part, it's quick. It takes very little energy to heat up water and to reconstitute it. And it lasts a long time. And it's really easy, right? And sometimes you need that.
Right. Well, but there's patience required. But like to finish the point that I was trying to get to is like, and you kind of did it for me, but it's like freeze-dried, the right kind of food or the right kind of dehydrated food, they can last a really long time. They're not designed to be rotated in your 90-day pantry. It's designed, and it costs more to get it to the final state that it's in when they package it. The packaging, the food processing, like the way they do everything is the most expensive way to prepare a meal. And if it isn't 100% freeze-dried together when it's like made, like cooked and then freeze-dried, it's not going to last. So the point to all that is like, this is your long-term stuff. It's going to be more expensive. It's always going to be more expensive. If it's not, it's crap. Like, and when it comes to your 90-day pantry, it should be all the things you eat every day. Like, get a root cellar if you don't have one. Like, get a cool, dry place to put your food. Whatever that means, you need to make a sacrifice to make that happen because, like, it's canned foods. It's wheat. It's ground wheat flour, right? It's the things that you use all the time. And what's sad is I just said flour and wheat, and how many people really grind their own flour anymore?
Well, see, that's the question I had posed to me a couple weeks ago is, is it better to store flour, like number 10 can flour, which has about a 10-year shelf life, or wheat? And, just looking at the way things are going now, I said flour. Just buy flour because it's good for 10 years. And I think you're going to be using it before those 10 years comes around.
Or you better be using it before 10 years goes around, right? Keep those skills fresh.
Yeah. Remember, and at that point, yes, you'd be rotating that. I just think we're going to be needing to use that flour before that expires, right?
Oh yeah.
And then wheat has about 30-year shelf life. However, my neighbor asked me that same question. I've got wheat. It's over 30 years old. Should I throw it out? And honestly, I said, I don't know. All I've heard is 30 years. She took it, she ground it, she made bread out of it, gave me a loaf. It was great. Now, as for nutrition quality, I don't know, right? It's going to lose some nutrition value.
Depending on how it's stored.
Depending on how it's stored, how long, and so forth. But it tasted good. And I didn't, it's not like it made me feel sick or anything. I felt fine afterwards. So I figure, if you have it and it's 30, 40 years old and it's not moldy, it still smells fine, use it.
Yeah. Do the sight, the taste, and the sniff tests. If it passes all three, then you do the ingest test. See how you live, right? Or die.
Well, I remember hearing a story about somebody who found a silo and unearthed a silo of Egyptian wheat or something like that. It's been a couple thousand years old, and they cooked it up and ate it, and it was just fine. So, like you said, Scott, under the right conditions, these things can last way longer than what we have on our expiration dates and packaging.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Himalayan sea salt that you go buy that's been there for thousands and thousands of years, and they're like, this expires next summer. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It's a million-year-old Himalayan sea salt.
Stock up your pantry. And it's also funny to me how few people actually throw like extra seasonings in their pantry. And part of the reason I think they don't is because if you go to the grocery store, those McCormick seasonings, those 2.5 ounces of seasonings, it's like $7 for one of those little tiny jars. But here's the secret. If you go to the Asian market or the Hispanic market, you can get like 8 ounces for half the price that you were paying for the 2.5.
Wow. It's essentially the same thing, and probably better because it doesn't contain a lot of the processed stuff these bigger companies put in there to extend the shelf life.
Yeah.
Or enhance the flavor enhancers, which are, could very well be, aborted baby fetal cells in there, right, to enhance the flavor. So,
well, we were talking at lunch the other day when we went to lunch that when it's one thing to be able to kind of stomach the fact that you got to eat rice and beans every day, but man, couldn't you throw a little different? Like maybe you put lemon spice in one day, and the next day you put in a little oregano, and the next day you put in a little bit of something else, and you got different spices to help you kind of make the rice and beans a little different. And then you mentioned, Shane, putting in tomatoes and having diced tomatoes, cans of diced tomatoes. What a great idea! That's a huge way to make your food go a little longer because now you've got that tomato in there to fill you up, but also to give you some more flavoring and to make that more palatable for consumption especially if you're going to have to eat it for weeks or days, weeks on end.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for that 30-day, 90-day pantry, because that's, we talk 90 days, that's what I do. It's easier to rotate. When I go to the store, I don't have a huge stockpile that I have to rotate. 3 months is much more manageable for me, for the cupboard and for the pantry. So that's, of course, if you want to go 4 or 6 months with all the stuff you usually eat, that's easy enough to do. I mean, because your food's not going to expire within six months if you're rotating that. So more easy to do that than to say, try and do a year or going to the expense of the freeze dried stuff, because it is considerably more expensive, especially if you're going to get the good stuff, which probably makes more sense to not do anything unless you're going to spend the money on the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, the other nice thing is like pantry foods. Like I have tons of in my pantry instant rice, like, which is also super beneficial for if the power goes out or we have other problems. It's like that's a lot easier to cook and I'd use a lot less water. Same with instant beans. Like we've got like Zatarain's rice, and we've got Uncle Ben's, and we got all this other stuff, and we got cans of beans. My wife loves baked beans. I don't like baked beans. The homemade baked beans, okay, but canned baked beans, I'm just like, ugh. And my wife and kids love them, so we've got a lot of that. Why? Because they eat it all the time. Do we buy more? No. Like, for example, we don't buy tuna fish anymore. After my second kid, my wife won't eat it.
Interesting.
I'm the only one that eats tuna fish anymore, and I don't eat it very often. Like, I've got cans that are like 4 years old, and I'm still eating them. But it's in my pantry, my 90-day pantry, because I got to get rid of it first in, first out. Like, if I'm buying something else and it's not something I normally eat, it doesn't go right into the pantry. It goes into my longer term storage. And then I rotate through all that, and I kind of get anal about it. We have spreadsheets that we track and we use to keep track of all that. That stuff makes a big difference for us because I see anal keep organized. Grocery store, it's our home store. Treat it that way.
Yeah, even if the can says that it's out of date or expired, you can still go for it. We had a beef stew that we had. We liked it. We were eating it for a while. I got the 90-day supply, and then we kind of got out of the habit of eating it, and then we built up our still supply. We weren't rotating it because we're out of the habit of eating it. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you know what? I want to have some beef stew. And so I went in to grab some beef stew, and sure enough, it was like expired already. And we're like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's do it. And we cooked up a couple cans and we ate it. And everybody was like, hey, this tastes just as good as it did if we'd opened it up right away. So there's a lot of these ideas that, we have that we just think about, oh my gosh, it's expired. We better throw it away. It's going to go bad. It's wrong. It's nothing. And that's not just, it's just not really the case. So
what I do is those cans that do get expired that we don't use as much in our rotation, I'll take those cans and put them separately into the long-term storage. But what had happened to me in the last 6 months is a can of black beans exploded in my long-term storage.
Oh no.
And just made a huge mess. It had expanded, and you could see it some of the other cans were bursting. Like, okay, now I'm definitely not going to eat that. And it literally broke a seam and sprayed black bean juice all over the place.
Oh my
gosh. Nasty. So it definitely does take, you can't just set it aside and forget about it. Even the long-term storage, I think it makes sense to go in there at least and audit it at least twice a year to see how your cans are doing and what you need to, get rid of. And then also a while back, I had an issue with rodents. We had one bag of wheat that was not in a pail. It was a long-term storage bag, but the mice had gotten to it. And it was a huge problem. It was a very big problem in my house. Mice everywhere. You could hear them in the ceiling. And we had to basically essentially scour our entire house, get out anything that could possibly be eaten, and then even pull down light fixtures and clean out the mouse poo from the light fixtures.
Wow.
So if you have any bagged grains, I would still suggest putting them in pails because they're far more durable. Rodents can't get to them, even though the bag is maybe a 30-year bag where it says that they last for 30 years in that particular bag. It's just not nearly as durable. So avoid that issue of rodents and break it down and put it into Mylar bags inside pails with oxygen absorbers.
Yeah, we did the same thing, or similar thing happened to us. We had a bunch of rodents that got into our spaghetti noodles and our macaroni noodles. And I was like, dang, this is so much waste. And so much was wasted. So from that point forward, we got the totes with a clip with the lids that you can clip. And so now we have our 90-day supply of those more attractive foods to those kind of animals. We now have it in that plastic tote, and we just open up the lid and we pull out a thing of spaghetti, and we'll rotate that, or a thing of baked ziti or whatever we're going to make for that meal. But another thing too is like ants. In my pantry, my 90-day pantry had an ant problem. One of the boxes wasn't sealed, and they got through a hole, and sure enough, before you knew it, they were telling their buddies, and a whole line of ants. And so thankfully I was able to kill it with a couple of ant traps and get it taken care of. But you just gotta, you gotta be aware, especially in your 90-day supply. You should be restocking that or rotating through that and checking on that, every week or every 2 weeks, whenever you go grocery shopping. But that longer term storage, definitely got to check in on that at least a couple times a year. That's such a good idea.
Yeah. And again, number 10 cans and pails are far more durable. Number 10 cans can possibly rust depending on how humid your environment is. We keep ours in our basement because it's cooler, right? It's below 70 degrees all the time. But it is a little more humid. So just got to keep an eye on those galvanized cans as well, because they can tend to rust as well.
Yeah. That's something we covered in the class on at the Ready Summit. He talked about the different types of containers and what works and what doesn't work, which leads into Amos asked a question on our live stream. He's asking what's our take on Mylar bagging whey protein or the cassava. I'm not real familiar with cassava, but whey protein, it's a no-no to me. And here's why. The makeup of whey protein and all the different things that are in it, you don't know what each manufacturer is putting in with that whey protein. And that's why it only ever lasts about 18 months. Past that, it breaks down. There's things that smell wrong. And as soon as it smells wrong, I don't eat it. I just don't touch it. Even with oxygen absorbers in there, it's the chemical makeup of the food that you got to worry about.
Well, that's true, because these long-term food storage companies, they formulate their menus, their recipes, so they don't work against each other for the long-term storage. Some of these things don't taste so good because they have to take all the oils and fats out of them, like you said, Scott. So they have to formulate these meals to last long. And so, like Scott's saying, is something like with a whey protein, it may have something in there that they don't work together over a long period of time. So if you try and store it, I can see how it could potentially be a big issue, and you just won't eat it.
If you get a good quality whey protein and you put it in a bag like that, and you do the oxygen absorbers, just check it. Don't let it just don't let it sit for years and years and years. Check it every 3 to 6 months and see how it's doing. And you might not be in your 90-day pantry. That might be in your 6-month rotation. As long as you're rotating it a little bit more often, I think it should be okay. Just be careful and watch it. Don't just let it sit there for 10 years and think it's going to be rocking and rolling.
I give it like 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
Most likely.
Rotated, like you got I'd really worry about it after 2 years. Like the same thing with that's why they don't freeze dry milk, like whole milk. The fats in it just
the non-fat milk. Yeah,
it's the non-fat milk, right? And that's why every reconstituted milk you ever have, it's just not as good as the good fatty stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy when you start getting into the long-term food storage to forget that our normal diet is very fatty. It's also very sugary, which is the problem, right?
Yeah,
we need to learn and what we can store. Sugar stores indefinitely. You don't need oxygen absorbers. You just need to put it in a container, right? But that's not something you should be overly stocking.
Mm-hmm. I agree,
because that's not something that your body can process right and not get diabetic and have other problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless you're hypoglycemic and you obviously need to have some sugar that way. But absolutely. I think we definitely put too much weight on having sweeteners in our food storage. We can do it without a lot. Honey, natural honey is what I've got a good amount of, and then of course some sugar, brown sugar, molasses that way.
And honey stores really well.
What's the shelf life of honey?
1,000,000 years.
Yeah, like what?
Well, 6,000 years. Okay, 1,000,000. That's pushing it, right? 6,000
longer than we're going to live.
Yeah,
that's the key.
I think another to remember about whey protein is that it comes from the same or similar source that powdered milk does. And so if you're going to kind of judge where, kind of the length of that's about what I would give it. I kind of give it the same lifespan as that.
Exactly. And then I would definitely stay away from anything soy and try and store that. That is, I guess inherently kind of fatty in itself. And I'm sure they don't have soy ingredients in many of these long-term food storages. So there are soy drinks, if you're lactose intolerant, you want to store soy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would look more into that if you're going to try and store anything that's soy based, especially like energy drinks. And some of those energy drinks are soy based.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did when I started my 90-day pantry was I kind of took a look at what I eat for breakfast and what my family likes to eat for breakfast. And then I looked at what was genuinely storable. And, you might say, well, is Fruit Loops storable? You might be able to get a couple boxes in there and have that as part of your mix in and out. But honestly, things like oatmeal, those are really genuinely more storable than other things like Fruit Loops in a container. Because honestly, I've stored Fruit Loops, those big bags, you get the Tootsie, whatever the fake Fruit Loops are.
Yeah.
And we've had them in there, and we rotated one out, and with the kids poured a thing, and we're like, Dad, this tastes kind of weird. And I'm like, well, there you go. That's why we don't store Fruit Loops and things like that. So that was one of the first things I did, was just, what do I already eat? And then I just started stockpiling it in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's how I started with my 90-day pantry until I got, a week, 2 weeks, a month. And then I had 2 months. And then before long, I had 3 months. And some foods I only maybe have a month and a half, and other foods I may have 4 months. So it's good to take an inventory.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you don't meal plan regularly now, it's going to be so easy if something happens for you to burn through that food faster than you plan. So start meal planning, because you'll buy foods that you'll use more frequently and organize your meals based around eating habits, and you'll actually get smarter about what you're doing. And it's funny because I did all that and I got way better at it until we had kids, and then it's like, holy crap, like what are we gonna eat tonight? Every night.
It's a
We're
whole
gonna
new
eat,
world with kids.
oh, I guess we'll do Little Caesars tonight because I'm tired. Some of the worst food, like the worst decisions in food come when you're tired. So like plan it out in advance and like know what your plan is and give yourself time for it. And yeah, that 90-day pantry can serve you very well.
Yeah.
It'll take a lot of money.
Here's a thought. I know that we're all very much used to the 3 meals a day, right? I mean, that's not the way it's always been through history, right? It's not like, okay, wake up, have breakfast, come back at noon, have lunch. And, you know, it's you wake up, maybe you have some breakfast, you go out in the field, you're working all day, you come back for dinner, right? And so I don't think we need to be stuck into that. We have to have 3 meals. You could have a small breakfast, a big dinner, something like that, right? Where kind of like the fasting,
intermittent fasting,
to where you maybe eat once a day, but you eat a lot of calories. And that, of course, takes some getting used to, some practice. But again, also like Paris, like you're saying, is plan out your meals. Like for dinner, we like to do pasta. We like to do so it's easy to store a big can of Hunt's pasta with sauce with a big box of pasta. That's super easy to do.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
super easy and easy to keep track of and inventory as well.
Yeah, we got teriyaki sauce that we got 15 bottles of teriyaki sauce and sweet and sour sauce because man, sometimes when you want to have some rice, you want to have a little bit of different flavoring. So
absolutely,
we got 15 bottles of ragu and spaghetti sauce and et cetera, and so on and so on. And then 25, 30 boxes of macaroni and cheese. I don't want to give away all my secrets here, but that's how you start really making happen. You just start by what you already want to eat and then build from there. And then not to forget about some of the important things. Hey, Utah Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in and listening to us. We appreciate it. But another thing that is important is some of the personal items, like personal products, like, have some, I store deodorant. I have a little storage of shampoo. I have, I don't know if it's 90 days or not, but it's the way my daughters are washing their hair. I don't think I have a month even at this point, honestly, of shampoo, but you get the idea. I have bars of soap. I have toothpaste. I have toothbrushes. I have, Listerine. I have, Ziploc bags. I keep a storage. Once you get into the mood of having that pantry be kind of your first stop, when, hey, we're out of something in the upstairs pantry, go to the downstairs pantry. If it's in the downstairs pantry, then we won. Like it was there. We knew that's something our family uses. We're good to go. And then we just bring it upstairs and then we put it on the list to buy to replenish the downstairs. If I ever go downstairs and it's not there, I'm like, dang it. All right. I'm buying 3 of them the next time I go, because I'm never doing that again.
Well, then it's either a question of you didn't buy it when you should have, or you got teenage sized varmints who are getting into your storage and taking things.
And you can't keep track. You can't possibly keep track.
I rated our semi-sweet chocolate chips all growing up. My mom's like, I thought we had a lot of these. Where'd they go? And I'm all,
I don't know. I don't know.
I saw Ryan eating cookies out of the freezer, and poor Ryan would get in trouble. My sister and I, we blamed Ryan, my little brother, so many times for missing Girl Scout cookies, because my mom would buy a box and that was her year supply. Like her year supply was 1 box. That's my 3-minute supply. Like I can't handle having Thin Mints in the house for more than 20 minutes. It just doesn't happen. So it's like making sure whatever you're getting, not just food, like you're getting just like you. Like I have so much soap. Like my wife uses different soap than I do, and she's probably got a 6-month supply of soap. I've probably easily got a 2-year supply of soap for me.
Oh dang!
Because it's like you buy it in a family pack, and that's like a year's supply. Like
Mhm.
it really is. And now that we're working at home, I've seen it extended. Like everyone's remote now. It's like I don't go to meetings anywhere. If I'm home for 3 days straight, or 4 days, or usually 6 days straight without going anywhere, I might shower twice, unless I'm working out or in the yard, in the garden. Like it drastically changes our hygiene habits.
And here's another thing I just thought of that I do is obviously it's nice to have comfort foods. To eat the same thing over and over again, it gets old, and especially for the kids, right? I bought 5 pounds of Fireballs, and those pretty much last indefinitely. So I'll have one, maybe one a week, maybe 2 a week. That'll last me years for those 5 pounds of Fireballs. The Fireballs, all those red, hot, spicy jawbreakers.
Mhm.
And when I'm having a little bit of Jones, or because sugar's addictive, right? And when I'm jonesing that, I'll put one of those in while I'm driving or whatever. The spicy, hot cinnamon, can help me kick a headache, and just pick me up with a little bit of sugar. And it, like I say, it's stored pretty much indefinitely. So I think for me is a really smart preparation item is to have some kind of hard candy that, whether it's lemon drops, I mean, who knows, whatever your favorite hard candy is, you can get on Amazon and buy it cheap, and then stock it away, and then just slowly whittle away at it.
Yep.
So,
The Werther's Originals.
those are good.
I love those hard ones.
Just plain old root beer barrels.
The root beer barrels, yeah. But like, it's good to have get them and then take them out of their plastic container and then put them in a mason jar and pressurize it. Like throw an oxygen absorber in there and then pressure can. Like not pressure can, just I have a vacuum sealer. Done. It's good. It's good for a really, really long time. But it's like, you tell Mike, don't let the wife know where the chocolate is stored. In my house, it's don't let me know where the chocolate is stored. My wife doesn't care. She likes sweet stuff and sour stuff and like all the tart stuff. I'm the chocolate kid, and my kids are the same. They're like, "Dad's chocolate."
See, that's why you store the cocoa, so don't just dig into the cocoa. You have to use that to prepare something that tastes chocolatey, right? You're not going to be tempted just to eat the cocoa. So you buy the cocoa that has a long shelf life, and then you have to take some time to prepare something so it'll actually last in your food storage instead of saying, "Hey, where'd the cocoa go? It's all gone. I need to get some more."
We just breached the area where I am most vulnerable in life. In the apocalypse, I'll be jonesing for some chocolate. And if anybody has some good chocolate that's not bad chocolate, like I will be
get some ammo off of him, get some gold.
Yeah, I will be trade. You can get anything you want for my kids and my wife. Like it'll be an easy trade. But
we have 4 or 5 of those Hershey syrup bottles in our pantry. We use those for different things for desserts, and so having 4 or 5 Hershey is definitely on my list.
You only have 4 or 5?
Well,
I've got like 10.
They've got a shelf life there, Scott. They got
90-day pantry. I have 10 of them in my 90-day.
Dang.
And it shouldn't even just be pantry anymore. Like we need to change it. Our 90-day storehouse. Like
that's true.
It really should be our 90-day storehouse. And it's like you've got all your stuff. Because even though I don't shower every day, like it might be every other day or every 3 days. Like I'm cleaning and detoxifying the house. We're using the different compounds like to clean and maintain proper hygiene. That doesn't stop. It's just I don't have to use as much bar soap as I used to because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not getting as dirty, right? We're all a little bit more lazy. But like think about the depression. You guys remember "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater"? Do you know the origin of that?
Yeah.
The origin is that the dad would get to bathe first, then the mom, then all the kids from age down to the baby. And by the time the baby's being washed, the water's all dark and murky. You might throw the baby out with the bath water. It's hard to see the baby in the water. And that was once a week that they'd get to do that. Like I remember stories from my great grandparents telling me about those things. It's funny. Like they had the metal tin and that's how they bathed everybody. Well, the first person got warm water that was clean. And she was in a family. I think she had 6 siblings. Wow. And by the time it was her turn, it was already cold. And I can just imagine her youngest brother, who's like, I think there's 3 between them. He was probably freezing and close to hypothermia by the time he got into being halfway clean, because the water's just yuck. But like, you've got to pay attention to those things. Like, there's going to be limitations when we get into situations where we can't replenish things. And speaking of which, the Weather Channel actually just did an announcement. Let me make sure I read this right. So Justin let us know that the Weather Channel actually just said rainwater is no longer safe to drink due to forever chemicals. Purify and filter everything.
That opens up a whole can of worms on conspiracy facts.
Right. And there's actually biblical prophecies that talking about that there won't be safe water to drink in all the land. Like, there's stuff's coming down the pipeline. Like, don't freak out, don't go panic, just start prepping if you haven't already started. And if you are prep, get more preps. Do as much as you can to protect yourself, prepare yourself. Be one of the 5 virgins who have oil and not the 5 who do not.
Yep.
And Utah Mike's asking, do we ever use bleach, or have any of you ever used bleach tablets for sanitation? I haven't used the tablets, but I have used
bleach
the powder.
Tablets. Yeah. What do you mean by tablet? Like pool tablets, like for spas or anything like that? Is that basically what you mean by tablets? Because you can get chlorine and you can get bromine tablets for sanitation. And yeah, you can use that to sanitize water, but not to purify it to drink.
Yeah.
Right. You can use pool shock in a particular form called sodium. I'll have to look it up, but it's a type of pool shock. There's a couple different kinds. You can only use one kind, and then you can use that to make your own bleach, and you can use that bleach to purify water. But as for using like chlorine tablets, like pool or a spa chlorine or bromine tablets, definitely don't recommend it.
And definitely don't ingest that. Evolve tablets. Yes, we're going to do some research on that and get back to you, Mike. That's a great question.
Is it kind of like an aqua? What's that water purification?
Aquamira?
Water purification tablets that have been around forever.
Aquamira?
Yeah,
I don't think it's Aquamira, but
that's the only one I can think of. Seychelles? Let's see. But the other thing, like, if you're trying to get chemicals out, like one of the Berkey's one of the best ones to get chemicals out. There are other bigger, like more robust systems to do that, but your Sawyer and your Life Straw are not going to get the chemicals out.
Potable aqua, that's what I'm thinking of. The potable aqua has been around forever. That is, what is that? That is a.
I think it's more bacteria than chemicals.
It's I can't even pronounce what it is. It's a type of hydroperoxide, like a hydrogen peroxide type of product in a tablet form. It's not chlorine, but those have been around for a long time. Yes, those absolutely do work perfectly well. But I'm gonna have to look.
Okay, so I'm looking at the Evolve bleach tablets. It's funny because I've used Sterine, which is a similar to the product, but that's just for sterilization. So after you've cleaned something. The Evolve bleach tablets, ultra concentrated. I'm going to do some homework on that because that's not a product I've done any research on.
That's great.
They're water activated, but it brings up. So they only start working when you want them to. The solid form means no spills, no splash, no mess. Containers are recyclable, but it doesn't say anything about stability because, like once the bleach becomes liquid. It begins degrading, and
exactly
it's no longer effective. I think it's about a year. It loses most of its potency.
Yeah, chlorine by itself starts to lose potency after about 6 months. The pool shock that I have stored is calcium hypochlorite in powder form, and then you use that to make your own bleach solution, which then you can use for sanitizing or then purifying water. But it stays mostly what's the right word? In its dry form, it stays mostly active in its dry form, and then once you make it into solution, then you have a shorter shelf life, similar to what chlorine would have. So just calcium hypochlorite, full shock.
Yeah, looking at the
and then just get
Evolve
online
and the other types of bleach like tablets. It's only going to last as long as the container's lasting, and those look like pretty crappy containers. So, number one thing, make sure there's no light. Number two thing, make sure there's no moisture. So I would open it up, throw some oxygen absorbers in there. That's not going to affect the balance of the chemicals. To my understanding, I'm not a chemist, so don't go crazy with what I'm saying, but check it out. Do some research. I think that's a great option.
bleach. I guess this is a laundry product, so I don't know if it can be used for.
It actually talks about using it for the washing machine, as well as it's great for floors, countertops, bathrooms, and kitchens. But
so I guess you could use for cleaning and sanitizing. But
yeah, clean it and sanitize it, and then you rinse. Give it 10 minutes to dry, and then rinse the area thoroughly if it's not in your washing machine.
That's
so
great.
It's definitely
and don't get the lemon scented. Don't get the lemon scented.
There you go.
Well, I mean, either way, this brings up a great topic about, we've talked about food in our pantries, but we know that one of the rules of three is you can't live without water. You can go without food way longer than you can go without water. And so I have in my storage, in my pantry, I have 11 5-gallon water bottles. Those 40 now that Walmart has them and Costco has them too. That's the 40 water bottles. It's 5 gallons of water. I have 11 of those in my house at all times, and I rotate those for sure. And we use that water because that's immediate use water for drinking. And then I have water, for longer term storage in other areas of my property. So, and then of course, the idea is you can only store so much water, and then you're going to have to find a way to get that water and make it clean and be able to bring it and bring it back to the house. So it's definitely, the next stage after you got your 90-day supply of water, so to speak, is to find some way to replenish that with a water pump, water filtration device. Berkeys are great, and et cetera, et cetera. But water is super. You cannot live without water. So you've got to have water.
When all else fails, boil your water.
Yeah.
Boil your water and then run it through a couple of filters.
Boiling won't get rid of chemicals.
It won't get rid of chemicals.
Kill everything,
but it'll kill whatever could be alive. Because most of us are going to resort to looking for water in creeks and lakes and streams and anywhere we can find, water coming in from another location. Sanitation, I agree with you, Tom Mike. He says he thinks it's going to be one of the big things that takes out many individuals, and it will. And it has been one of the biggest things that kills people in disasters in history, throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is like vinegar. And I'm glad Dee Dee brought that up on our TikTok. She's like, guys, vinegar is a good cleaner. Vinegar is fantastic. You can distill your own vinegar.
I use a vinegar salt solution, and then you electrolyze it, and it turns it into a very effective cleaner. I forget what it's called, but I'll have to look it up and share that with you. It's very cool.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And it's you can just keep making it. Like it doesn't require a whole lot to be able to make your own. Doomer says hi. Jester says hi, guys. You've also got, let's see. Oh, he also says these are hot guys. Thank you, Jester, for your kind compliment.
That's funny.
It's such a good group. I feel blessed that we have such a neat group of people that we get to interact with on such an recurring basis. So many good questions. I mean, Utah Mike, you've just had some great content, great comments and questions. Thanks for participating in the live tonight. Guys, if you want to make sure you're always watching these lives and have access to go back and watch them again and again, make sure you're in our Facebook group. Tonight's really more about the 90-day home store. We kind of talk about pantry, but guys, it has to be more than just a pantry. You have to make sure that you're keeping the essentials stocked, the things you guys use all the time stocked. This includes your first aid. And I'm talking serious first aid kits, trauma kits, solutions, not just the basic. I got the 300-piece kit from Walmart and 299 pieces are Band-Aids and one is tape. Like, no, don't get rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of gauze. Get the non-adherent pads. Like, get the solutions that actually work and that you're going to learn more about from hospitals and what they use. Have those on hand. Have everything you can on hand for 90 days. And I think it's one of the best financial recommendations I've ever received was to have a 90-day supply of pretty much everything in my home. Every time I've lost a job or I've gone where I haven't been paid for a month or two, those are the things that have significantly impacted our daily life and improved it by far more than just having an emergency bank account. Backup savings, that's great. But if I have one less thing I have to worry about and I don't have to split that money between mortgage and food and cleaning supplies, it's so much easier. It's so much easier if you have those things taken care of and you do a little bit at a time. You don't go out and buy it all at once. You take it in chunks. What do we eat the most of? Okay, buy 4 or 5 extras of those every time you go. What do we eat the next most of? Okay, get some of those. What kind of cleaners do we have? Can you buy 2 that week? If you've got room in the budget, buy an extra couple. Because at this point, with the way our financial situation and outlook is in the world, everything gets more expensive every 2 to 3 weeks anyways. So you're buying it now, you're buying it at a discount in the future, basically. You're giving yourself, it's on sale today versus tomorrow. And if it is on sale today, find a way to get it without going into debt, because that
it's also just plain a good place to put your cash. In a bank account, what are you earning? 0.1% of interest, and inflation is potentially upwards of 20%. You put your cash into food or your everyday supplies, and think a year from now, if it's 20% more, you just made 20% on your money instead of losing 20%. So it makes perfect sense to even pull some money, cash, currency out of your bank and stock up. And that's what I'm doing. It's not financial advice, right? But right now, that's a pretty good arbitrage right now.
Well, I went to the store. I know we're wrapping up, but I went to the store this last week and I bought the family size of the cereal, and the family size that I bought was 18 ounces. And I was like, wait a minute, this seems smaller than the last family size I bought. And I had another family size in my pantry, in my home store, that I had bought a couple weeks that was rotating. And sure enough, it was 23 ounces a couple weeks ago when I bought it. And it was the same price. And I was like, this is one of the ways they're getting us, by giving us less product for the same price. And so
now you got to buy the party size now instead of the family size.
Seriously.
So you see these bags of chips, right? So it's family size. Like, is this like a family of 3? And then you got to go to the party size. And even then, there you go.
Is this a school for ants? It's got to be at least 10 times this big.
Yeah, the family size boxes of cereal, like Life cereal. We like Life cereal. And the family size is it's literally a 1.5, 2-inch wide box. It's tiny. It's ridiculous.
They used to be huge. They used to be ginormous. And now they're like, eh. But the bagging inside those boxes is not as well sealed as the plastic bags of cereal that you go find just down the aisle. I found those last longer. They don't stale as fast. So I try not to buy those, the boxed ones, especially Cheerios. That's the fastest cereal to stale that I've ever come across. But the ones that are in the bag and that has the Ziplockable ability, like those things just tend to last longer. So that's what we put in our pantry is I don't know what the brand is. It used to be Quaker, but now it's changed so many times. Multi-meal, but yeah. But whatever store's better, buy more of that. Whatever you're using, buy more of that. That's what your 90-day home store is. And then once you've got your 90 days, extend it. If you can get out to 6 months, man, you're rocking it. That is fantastic. And just keep going from there.
Well, and the thing is, you're going to need it. I mean,
Mhm.
you're going to need it. It's right now. It can be financially smart to make those kind of purchases, but it comes down that it's going to be needed. You're gonna be very glad that you did, and you'll get down to the point where, well, I got to go back to the store now. I've gone through all my. It'll keep you out of the stores for a long time. Away from the crowds and the chaos, by having those, and you can choose at that point. Like, okay, I don't need to go to the store and deal with all the crap that's going on there. At least at least for a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's very comforting. Like, it's going to be crazy. I'm not going. Like, we got what we need. We can get along without it. Instead of having to go and be part of that, any potential chaos and craziness, at the store, and maybe not getting what you need too. So,
well, it kind of goes back to, and we'll close here, I think, on this point is, a lot of people think, oh man, when COVID hit or when the pandemic hit, all the preppers went and got all the toilet paper and all the food and all the cleaning supplies and screwed everybody else over.
That was the non-preppers.
And the reality is, it was none of the preppers doing that. We already had toilet paper and everything else because we've been buying a little bit of time for a long time. It's like when now that hit, we probably went 6 to 8 months without buying toilet paper, and we were fine. It was amazing. Like, oh, we're down to our last bag of toilet paper. Our bags of toilet paper are the big cases, right? We're down to our last case. Okay. Well, let's see if they're in stock and if we're okay to buy some if the price is good. Oh, it is. And they're in stock. Okay, buy one. Not 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. Buy one. And then the next week, we bought another one when we went grocery shopping. Like, it comes down to be smart and be safe. Your home store is a level or layer of security in all of your defenses and protection of your family, not just in case of danger, but in general life, because life is always hitting hard and the future is not going to get any easier. The food shortages that we're going to see, it's not going to be everything's gone. Certain things will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
You might still be able to get something you don't like to eat. That's why it's good to have a 90-day pantry or longer of things you do like to eat. So start there. Get the stuff that makes the most sense for your family. The stuff that your family needs comes first.
And if you don't want to eat crickets or bugs, then stock up other things you want to eat, because you may have to buy bugs next time.
And you may have to start your own mealworm factory in your backyard. Like,
oh, guys,
hey,
what are we getting into?
The point is this: like, if you make good choices now, you don't have to make the bad choices later. Right? Choose to do the hard things today, so that the hard things don't choose your future for you later.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Choose your hard.
Choose your hard before your hard chooses you.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, let's wrap it up, because I could just keep going and you guys will probably get annoyed with me. But again, put your plan together, stick to it, finish it, and then rotate it. Keep doing that. Never quit. Never stop. Always, 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 always keep that head on a swivel. Pay attention to what's going on. Keep your family protected. Keep your family prepared. It's easier always to do it now than instead of tomorrow, because we only have today. Today is the gift. That's why it's called the present. So prep. Love the ones you love. Get in better shape. Live a better life. And we're going to see you guys next week. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio. And for those of you on the live stream, you've been streaming our silliness. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate the community. Please join us on our Facebook group and you'll get all the inside scoop. Have a great night, everybody.